Welcome to week 3 of geography.
Let's travel around the world, through ocean, sea, and land. We don't have 80 days, but oh, our trip, it will be grand. We start in North America, USA and Canada. Up north it's cold, down south it's hot, more continents there are a lot. Let's travel around the world. South America, it's plain to see. Is south of North America, there's mountains, rivers, and lots of trees. Africa is home to the deserts and the Nile River. Europe's a peninsula, I hope you're a good swimmer. Asia is the biggest continent of all. Frozen tundra up in Russia, islands I can't name them all. And down under, Australia has a desert plain, but in the water, the coral reefs are bleaching. The last one is Antarctica, it's ice, ice, ice. There's mountains and there's valleys, but it's ice, ice, ice. We made it round the world, through ocean, land, and sea. We went real fast, it was a blast. Let's stop and have some tea.
I hope you're ready to learn about the world and the cultures that we celebrate. When you're looking at the assignments this week, you'll notice, the same as the last 2 weeks, they're divided into 4 days. So, assuming you're in class, you'll do each day one at a time. If you have groups or something, you need to go back and do the days that you missed. There's also IXLs down at the bottom. Let's take a look at one of the IXLs. Remember to sign in before you start, because otherwise it won't record your points over here. I'm just doing this as an example. Read the directions and then answer the question. Which continent is highlighted? We learned about this last week. This is North America. Which ocean is highlighted? If you don't know, you can use the maps in the beginning of your book. I know this is the Indian Ocean. Which continent is highlighted? Down at the bottom, that is Antarctica. Who owns Antarctica? These are little fun tidbits of information that you should read when they pop up. Who owns Antarctica? No one country controls Antarctica. In the 1950s, several countries had explored or claimed parts of Antarctica. To avoid conflict over those claims, 12 countries came together in 1959 and wrote the Antarctic Treaty. By signing the treaty, the countries agreed not to claim any new territory. They agreed that Antarctica would only be used for peaceful purposes, such as scientific research. Today, more than 50 countries have agreed to follow this treaty. You can see these are some countries and what they claimed they owned before the treaty happened. Which continent is highlighted? Let's say I didn't know this and got it wrong. Okay? It will say, sorry, incorrect, and it tells you the right answer, so I can remember for next time when I see this question that this continent is Europe. Okay? And it also has a reminder down here. A continent is one of the major land masses on the earth. Most people say there are 7 continents. And then once again, the answer, this continent is Europe. So if you get a question wrong, please stop and read these explanations because they will help you later on. Which continent is highlighted? This is Africa. Oh, it's a good thing I stopped and read that last one because I know this is Europe. Oh, here's another little fun fact. Where does Europe end and Asia begin? Europe and Asia are both on the same landmass, so some people think of it as one continent called Eurasia. But throughout history, Europe and Asia have been described as 2 separate continents. Today, geographers mostly agree on a few major landmarks for drawing a line between Asia and Europe. Some of those landmarks are the Black Sea, the Greater Caucasus Mountains, the Caspian Sea, and the Ural Mountains in Russia. Okay, so you can continue these IXLs if you see over here Your challenge, you need to collect 12 tokens, so 12 right answers. So you'll just keep answering these until you get all your tokens. Okay? I didn't sign in. If you don't sign in, this will pop up and you'll have to sign in up here and restart all over. So make sure when you sign into IXL that you're actually putting in your username and password before you answer all the questions and do all the work. Otherwise, you'll need to start over. Once you complete all of your work this week, you will have all you need to do the following things. You will be able to explain what makes up people's culture. You will be able to discuss issues related to human population and its growth. You will identify what resources are and explain why countries trade with one another. And you will describe the ways in which people have an impact on the environment. Culture. Culture is defined as arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. Here are some elements of American culture. Do you recognize any of these? There's a Christmas tree because we celebrate Christmas in the United States. There's a football because many Americans like to play or watch football. And there is our flag. Here are some examples of African culture. Here you have traditional African clothing with these people over here with their beautiful headdresses and their necklaces or whatever those are called. Notice how this bride is not wearing a white dress. She's wearing lots of different colors and a very fancy hat. And here you'll see the different food that they have in Africa, traditional food. Much different than what you or I might eat for dinner. Let's talk some more about culture. Here you'll see a traditional Indian wedding where the woman wears a dot on her forehead, which is important in their culture. You'll see some of their foods. I don't know if any of you have had curry. I have not, but I heard it's very spicy. This is some pictures from England. This looks more familiar to us. They call these chips, but they're really just French fries, what we say, French fries, and fish. So they eat fish and chips, and they have lots of buses and busy streets and cities. So how do you think the big city convenient lifestyle could be bad for the environment? Are there anything you could think of that crowded cities would be bad for the environment? Here we see some pictures from Asia. You see women out farming rice, and then you see the product of their farming is this nice bowl of fried rice. So how could this impact the environment? What are these people doing that impact their environment? And is this more harmful or less harmful than big cities, do you think? Because we need farms and they do impact the environment. When you're looking at your book, we'll go back to Google Classroom in a minute because this is one of your assignments. I think it's your first assignment for day 1 is to read section 1 and do numbers 1 through 6 right here. So I would recommend looking at 1 through 6 first. So when you go through and read, you can kind of remember, oh, that's one of my answers, and I'm going to have to answer that in a minute. So you're going to have to define terms, and here's the terms: culture, ethnic group, dialect, monarchy, and on and on. So when you're reading, if you come across any of these words, you can go ahead and just answer it right then. Now, number 2 says, what kinds of social groups do geographers study? Now make sure when you're writing your answer down to start your answer just like this. Geographers study these kinds of social groups, and then you list them off so that your answer is in a complete sentence. Number 3, government. What are the different forms of government a society may have? Number 4, in what ways does cultural diffusion occur? So you're going to have to know what cultural diffusion is to answer this question. It's also one of the terms you have to define So you know when you're reading through the chapter that cultural diffusion is probably important because there's 2 questions about it. And then critical thinking. How does history shape a people's culture? Well, let's think about that. We have Thanksgiving coming up in a few months. And how in history did we get Thanksgiving? And how does Thanksgiving impact our culture? You can kind of think about those things when you're answering this question. And number 6, making comparisons. Describe 2 kinds of economic systems. So those are the questions you will answer on your paper. Okay, this is the first page in your book. Let's read this Exploring Our World together. 3,000 years ago, the Olmec people lived in Mexico. They sometimes wore skins of jaguars, cats that were sacred to them. This young boy lives in an area where the jaguar is still honored. He is preparing for a jaguar dance. An object from modern culture, a soft drink bottle, is used to make the jaguar spots of ash on the boy's clay-covered skin. If I go back to the last page, that could even answer how does history shape a person's culture, because in his history, jaguars were sacred, and today they are honoring the jaguar by putting those marks on their skin and having a dance. Okay? If we keep reading this, let's keep on going. If you wake up to rock music, put on denim jeans, speak English, and celebrate the 4th of July, those things are part of your culture. If you eat flatbread for breakfast, speak Spanish, and take part in celebrations honoring the jaguar, those things are part of your culture. What is culture? As used in geography, culture is the way of life of a group of people who share similar beliefs and customs. In studying a society's culture, geographers look at 8 elements called traits. So here we already have one answer for defining terms, because we have to define culture. So culture is the way of life of a group of people who share similar beliefs and customs. So even in reading that short amount, you already have an answer. Keep reading this section, it's only a few pages long, to answer the rest of the questions for day 1, and I'll see you next week.